Yeah, absolutely. Bill, we were just hearing from Mark there talking about the industries that are going to get hit the hardest by this. In what ways do you expect this to fundamentally reshape the relations between these two economies who have been so interdependent for so long?
Well, Christina, one thing to remember is that China's domestic economy is not very strong right now, and they really depend on exports to support their GDP growth and try to achieve that 5% target they're hoping for. And exports account for something about a third to almost a half of their exports over the last year or so. So exports are very important to them. And the United States is the biggest export market for China products. So I think the response from China to raising the tariffs is more like using a rifle rather than a cannon in response to President Trump. And like every other political leader, President Xi has to demonstrate very quickly he's not going to get pushed around by an American president. He has to appeal to the domestic audience to show that he wants to maintain China's sovereignty, and he will not allow Americans to push him around. So I expected that response. But one thing that's for sure is that the two largest economies in the world have to get together to agree on a revised global trade framework. WTO and the existing post-World War II trade framework doesn't work for China anymore, nor does it work for the United States. And negotiating that is going to be on the table. So I anticipate the two leaders to come together in the negotiating table to try to get these tariffs down and to really restructure the supply chains in the world in a way that benefits both China and the United States.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be some room for negotiation with just too much at stake here. Bill, can I just ask, because we also got those job numbers out today, unexpectedly up, actually, unexpectedly promising.
Yes.
How do you expect that to play into the markets?
I think it shows that the U.S. really has a pretty large head of steam under the economy right now. So all of this talk about uncertainty, and for me, the uncertainty is not so much about tariffs, but rather about whether or not President Trump is really going to be able to achieve the overall agenda of smaller government, lower taxes, and more importantly, smaller regulation to be able to attract foreign investors into the United States. Those headwinds that are coming up are facing a pretty strong tailwind. So I think the recession fears and calls of the sort that many economists are coming out for, the fear mongers, I think those are overstated, and it's going to take quite a lot to push the U.S. economy into a recession. So I think there's been very good news on the job front right now.
Yeah. Mark, when we consider where China are economically right now, I was reading a report from one analyst who said that Trump has effectively raised the average US tariff rates on Chinese products here by 69% because the average rate on Chinese goods was already at 15%. What is the prediction here for China's economy in the year ahead after this levy was placed on them? Oh, I think we've just lost Mark. So maybe, Bill, you can pick that up for me if you heard the question.
Yeah, I think China's GDP forecasts are in question right now. There's going to be a wide range of uncertainty because the China stimulus for getting domestic consumption up really hasn't worked so far. President Xi is really determined to be able to stimulate the economy through the supply side, increasing manufacturing, and especially the high-tech, leading-edge manufacturing. And the United States demonstrated in the 1930s that the supply side doesn't work. You need to encourage people to spend on the demand side, and they won't spend unless they're confident their wealth is secure and their jobs are secure. And the state of the domestic economy right now is one where jobs are certainly not secure, and their wealth in the property market certainly has no signs of being restored.
Bill, it's interesting to note that the US tariffs included to China did include some exemptions, but the retaliatory tariffs from China have had no exemptions. You talked about the possibility of negotiations earlier. Where do you expect the US and China to come together to try and work through in specific industries?
I think the need for China to get at least some U.S. tech products and the desire for the U.S. to protect some of our farm exports, those will be the points of negotiation right now, as far as I can see. But I think China, again, is going to have to do this quietly because I think it's very important for President Xi's domestic audience to show that he is coming to the bargaining table with strength and not in response to the promptings of President Trump.
All right, Bill Lee, we really appreciate your thoughts on this at this chaotic time, and our thanks to Mark Stewart as well.